associate for this morning's service. A big welcome to everyone, whether you are attending in the sanctuary or via Zoom. Unitarian Universalism is a liberal religious faith that carries no creed and welcomes all seekers. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are on life's journey, you are welcome here. We are guided by a set of principles and written sources that encompass the many ways we come to know and understand the world, the universe, and the divine. Our principles are important to us at UU Catskills, and we strive to live our values on a daily basis. We acknowledge that our sanctuary is built on Lenape land. We affirm that Black Lives Matter. We are a welcoming congregation for the LGBTQ+ community. We are a congregational affiliate of the Ulster Immigrant Defense Network. And we are an active voice in the effort to address climate change. Please take a moment to greet those sitting around you. A special welcome to all visitors with us today. If you are in person in the sanctuary and would like to introduce yourself, please raise your hand, as we would love to say hello to you and welcome you personally. Anyone want to introduce themselves? A reminder that people of all ages, children, young and old, are welcome here at UU Catskills. There's a space across the hallway for anyone who'd like to hear the service while being able to move freely about. You can visit our website, uucatskills.org, to find contact information or to be added to the mailing list and to find the latest monthly newsletter. Our newsletter, which is also distributed by email, tells you everything you need to know about our upcoming events. If you're a visitor online and would like to be added to our mailing list, you can put your name and email address in the chat box area on Zoom. Please stay for either an in-person or virtual coffee break after today's service, hosted by Susan Annabelle and Karen Wykes-Lindsay. And we have one announcement.
I'm trying to turn on these lights so I can read I can't, I want to turn these ones on.
Kathy Kasner has a social action moment. Kathy.
So, unlike paper, metal, and glass, plastic is not reliably recycled. Contrary to what producers would lead you to believe, only about 5% of plastic is recycled. The rest winds up in landfills, the oceans, and even in our bloodstreams. Do you know which of these would be recyclable? Well, we need to hold our producers responsible by writing them to enact producer responsibility laws. If you chose this bag, because it's made of film plastic, it is readily recyclable because there's a demand for this to be made into plastic lumber. While you cannot take it to put it in your recycling bin, you could return it to your local grocer. The decisions you make each day are important. So in addition to that, what is film plastic? It's any plastic that you can stretch without breaking. So things like cereal bags, cracker packaging, even bubble wrap. So the choices you make matter. Collect these, and when you go into the grocery store, you can return them. So make the better choice when buying your apples, or make the best choice, bring your own bag.
Thank you, Kathy.
Sheriff, I just want to mention that Hannaford recycles the filled plastic.
Okay, Hannaford recycles the film plastic.
And they have a machine that takes the vitamin water bottles. I've used it.
Okay.
You just feed them in and it goes go.
So see Abby after the service for all the information. Thanks to everyone who's assisting in today's service. Our hybrid services are made possible by our technical team, Lydia McCaw, who is here at the sanctuary and provides our live streaming from the pulpit, and our Zoom host, Jenny O'Grady-Giddy. A reminder to please take a moment and turn off your cell phones or other electronic devices. Give yourself permission to be fully present here and now. Our prelude this morning is A Hermit Thrush at Morn by Amy Beach, performed by Catherine Catabiani. Thank you, Catherine. So, I don't know if there are any children here today. All right, but don't worry, because not for children, we're all children. So I need like a child at heart to come up and light the chalice for me. Come on, there you go. Okay, and while Bruce lights the chalice, please join me in saying the chalice lighting words on your order of service. We light this chalice in grateful, loving community. Even in the darkest of times, may its flame light paths to courage, justice, and hope. Now, I need some other children at heart here. Come on, I'm not the only one, and Bruce. I would like to light the menorah. Thank you, Debbie. Did you? Just come on up. Tonight will be the fourth night of Hanukkah, and though we wouldn't light the candle until sunset, Debbie is going to light the shamas and then light the 4 candles that represent the first 4 nights.
And then I'm gonna light the other one?
Yep, I'll take that one.
Do you want somebody to say the prayer?
Oh, that would be great. Someone want to sing?
Yeah.
Go.
I'm not gonna sing,
Okay, we'll say it with you. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'ner shel Hanukkah. Thank you. Please now join me in our unison affirmation in your order of service. May we be reminded here of our highest aspirations and inspired to bring our gifts of love to all living beings. May we know once again that we are not isolated, but connected in wonder and joy to mystery, miracle, in the universe, in this community, and in each other. Our opening words will be read by Clark Strand, but I'd like to introduce him to you first. Clark Strand is a former Zen Buddhist monk and teacher whose work explores the intersection of spirituality and ecology. The author of books on poetry, Buddhism, the Bible, and paleohistory, he is the founder of the International Ecofeminist Rosary Fellowship, The Way of the Rose, and the co-author with his wife Perdita of the best-selling book by the same title. I also add that he and his lovely wife Perdita are dear friends of mine for almost 3 decades. Yep, their oldest daughter who attended Super Tots, my nursery school, just turned 30 this week, and their son Jonah is 27. I am old. It was quite an extraordinary experience having them both be parent helpers in my school. So I'm proud to introduce you to Clark and Perdita.
So this is the short text that will be the subject of the, I think it's called a homily today. And in honor of the Buddha's Enlightenment, which is generally celebrated on December 8th, this is the first in a collection of green or ecological Zen koans, which I compiled some years ago. As Shakyamuni Buddha meditated beneath the Bodhi tree, Mara pointed to the place where he sat and demanded, "Who witnesses your right to the seat of enlightenment?" Shakyamuni reached a finger down to touch the ground. "I call the earth as my witness."
Thank you. Please join me in singing hymn 175, We Celebrate the Web of Life, and please stand if you are able. I'd like to bring Clark back up for our Not for Children only, and we are your Not for Children.
So I'd like to read a few paragraphs from the middle section of my book, Waking Up to the Dark, which is the first book in a trilogy. At a press conference in April 2009, Chief White House Science Advisor John Holdren described the impending catastrophe of global warming with an ominous metaphor. We're driving in a car with bad brakes in a fog and headed for a cliff. We know for sure the cliff is out there. We just don't know exactly where it is. As Holdren explained to reporters, the fog is our uncertainty about climate change and where we stand in relationship to it, whether it is here already or still to come. The cliff is the tipping point beyond which all efforts to forestall disaster are probably pointless. And the bad brakes are inadequate controls and regulations on greenhouse gas emissions. The car, presumably, is us, America specifically, and humanity in general, about to go over the edge. Holdren's metaphor communicates a sense of urgency and peril in language virtually anyone can understand. Nevertheless, something is missing. And that missing something is precisely what makes it a riddle rather than a metaphor. Strangely, it isn't a riddle that Holdren knows the answer to. He doesn't even realize that he is asking it. That is what makes it so absurd. Because while he mentions the car, the brakes, the fog, and the cliff, nowhere does he mention the road. The road is the only detail that matters. How did we end up on a road leading to a cliff? Was this where we were headed all along, towards the extinction of one half of Earth's plant and animal species by century's end? Were human beings always destined to go over the edge? Or was there once another road and somehow we got off of it?
So, we don't sing our children out because there are no children to sing out. Okay. Which kind And I brought a surprise for the children. Oh, well, I'll put it on if you have children at home.
Go ahead, spring it on us.
What?
Spring it on us.
Bring it on?
Spring it on us.
Bring it on you? Okay. I'll put it on the table. And if you have a child or grandchild, I'll just, a little dreidel and coins and how to play the dreidel game. I'll put that over there. And if you want to help yourselves to that, that would be great. Okay. Just make sure I'm following this right. Yes, okay. Joys and sorrows. We come together to support one another by sharing our joys and sorrows. When we are there for one another, our joys seem to multiply, and our sorrows are somehow easier to bear. If you have a joy or a sorrow you'd like to share, please raise your hand. Dawn Critchell is going to come around with a microphone, and I will put a stone in the water to acknowledge that.
I'm Ellen Harrington. I hope I can do this. Okay, so last Sunday, it was an amazing day, and then when I came home, took a nap, woke up, found out that my friend had called, and his mom passed away, and was a dear friend of mine for 25 years, and she was 91 and had congestive heart failure, and then in the nursing home she was living at, she got COVID at the same time, so it just didn't work out. She taught me a lot, and one of the things she taught me was that you can have a disagreement with somebody and still be cherished in that person's heart. And I know, my friend told me, she said, she loved you so much. You just need to realize that, and because we had our differences in 25 years, so. I always thought, oh, she doesn't like me, anymore, because of that disagreement. But she really did love me, and and I have to take that. I have to remember that, So,
Now we'll take a moment. Can you hear me? Okay. Now we'll just take a moment of silent meditation. I like this. Through our half-plate donations, we contribute to local organizations who are living our values in the work they do. This year, there's not a single specific charity each month. Instead, the Social Action Committee has elected 7 local charities for the year. We'll collect half-plate donations each Sunday for the entire year and then divide the donations equally between all the groups at the end of the fiscal year. Our worthy organizations this year are Seed Song Farm, Center for Creative Education, Hudson River Sloop Clearwater, Kingston Emergency Food Collaborative, A.J. Williams Myers African Roots Center, Hudson Valley LGBTQ Center, and the Ulster Immigrant Defense Network. You can also donate using the donate page on our website with PayPal or by mailing your check through U.S. mail. You'll see a QR code on the order of service. Our offertory this morning is, oh, wait a minute, hold on. Where, oh.
Rising Green.
Oh, sorry, thank you. Rising Green by Carolyn McDade, sung by the Occasional Choir. Thank you. Sorry. And now I'd like to bring Clark Strand back up for our talk on what is the Buddha's enlightenment. Clark?
Thanks, Cheryl. So I'm going to read this very short account of a very old story. It goes back to the first days of Buddhism. I'm going to ask you how many characters there are in this short story. As Shakyamuni, Buddha, meditated beneath the Bodhi tree, Mara pointed to the place where he sat and demanded, "Who witnesses your right to the seat of enlightenment?" Shakyamuni reached a finger down to the ground. "I call the earth as my..." How many characters are there? Anybody? 3. 4? 3. Okay. Well, there are 2 named characters. Actually, there's a 3rd named character too, and that's the earth. Right? Now, here's an interesting little thing. Some of you may have heard this term before, students of history. There's a term called sediment. You know, sediment is what forms in a bend in the river, for instance. Sometimes it collects at the bottom of a glass of wine, right? Historians use the term sediment to refer to a detail that drifts into a written text that endures way beyond the point where anybody remembers what it means. So even the first people to write this story down, and perhaps even the first people to tell this story, didn't know what the story was about. I have been to, I don't know how many Zen talks I went to during my years as a Zen Buddhist monk, how many Buddhist talks I went to after that. I was the editor of a Buddhist magazine, and I certainly read a lot of talks about this very episode. In not a single one of those talks did I hear that the earth was actually a goddess. The earth is actually a goddess. What happens in the original story is the demon Mara, whose name means murder, right, in some translations. In others, it's illusion, right? Mara is the deceiver, person who comes to test Shakyamuni. So he's sitting underneath the Bodhi tree for a week prior to his enlightenment. And on the final night, when he's almost there, Mara comes to tempt him, tries to frighten the Buddha with armies of demons, tempt him with dancing girls, and so forth and so on. Everything fails. Finally, he evokes this old Indian law that says that the deed to a piece of property must be witnessed by at least one person. So finally he says there's a last-ditch effort by his final play. He says, well, I've got nothing left. So do you hold the deed to that piece of land that you're sitting on right now, the seat of enlightenment? It's like saying, what gives you the right to exist, right? Who testifies to your right to exist? And so Shakyamuni reaches a finger down and touches the earth and says, I call the earth as my witness. The earth is capital E, earth, and a goddess emerges at that moment from the earth. Okay, all right. So I got that going for me. So a goddess emerges at that moment from the earth, and in some versions of the stories, 10,000-fold flowers rain down from the heavens. And she comes and says, literally, in the original, first versions of the story, it isn't so much Shakyamuni that says, I call the earth as my witness, but the earth herself who says, I bear witness. Oh, okay. All right. Is it on? Okay, good. And so what we have here is not what it seems. This story has been used for thousands of years to proclaim the greatness of the Buddha, right? To suggest that, the Shakyamuni Buddha has escaped from the wheel of birth and death, right? Has basically found the kind of a loophole to get out of the endless chain of karma, right? basically to escape from the planetary ecology, right? Buddhism teaches that nirvana is a state of being blown out, right? Escape from causation, escape from what we would call the great chains of chemicals and life forms that turn in a great circle that include all things on the planet, right? Traditional Buddhist belief says that to become enlightened is to escape from all of that. But that isn't what this story tells us. The finger, the Shakyamuni's finger touching the earth is not like a fish hook fishing for a compliment, right? He's not like saying, I want to be proclaimed the world honored one, the most enlightened one. No. His finger is an equal sign. Touching the earth saying, I and the earth am one. What gives you the right to be enlightened? What gives anyone the right to be enlightened? What gives anyone the right to exist? The earth gives us the right to exist. So I read earlier this passage from Waking Up to the Dark, talking about John Holdren's press conference, and there was a reason for that. Back in the early 2000s, when Perdita and I were beginning to sort of hit our stride with the kinds of writing that we do now, we were reading deeply in ecology and paleohistory, paleobiology, early history of human beings. I was part of a think tank where they got a lot of people together every week and gave them a question at the Washington Post Newsweek and asked us to reflect on a common theme. And I found myself one day writing 3 words that really changed my whole way of thinking. I thought ecology, not theology. Ecology, not theology. And the more I thought about that, the more it seemed like a useful slogan. Something that you could apply to just about any kind of spiritual text, and you could find what was really valid or true or eternal in that text. And you could sift through, the great spiritual scriptures of the world, and you could find those things which were still valid for an age of extinction and collapse. So I began to read back through the Bible, the Quran, the various Buddhist sutras, the Vedas, the Upanishads, and I found everywhere that there were ecologically valid teachings that held up, teachings that offered some kind of guidance on our path forward. And but most of it I simply threw out because it had no relevance whatsoever. I looked back at my career as a Zen Buddhist monk and ultimately becoming a teacher. And I looked at the teachings that I had been given. I found that very few of them had any value whatsoever in the 21st century. I threw them out. I kept a few things like this, a few glimmers, a few jewels, right? I felt like a person who'd been sent into a burning house and asked to choose the things that really mattered. That's what it felt like. And so I left that burning house of, I guess today I would call it patriarchy. My wife says after I stopped being a Zen Buddhist monk in 1990, I spent 20 years trying to get patriarchy right. Without even realizing that that was what I was doing. So coming back to John Holdren and this remarkable metaphor of the road leading to a cliff. I don't know if any of you have ever looked at the population curve for Homo sapiens on Wikipedia. Have you ever looked at it? All you got to do is type in world population or human population into Wikipedia and then click on images, and probably the first image that will come up is a graph that traces the recent, as in past 12,000 years, history of the subspecies Homo sapiens sapiens. And the graph or the curve hugs the bottom of the line for almost, almost like 9,000 years before it begins to bump at all. By the time you get to the age of the Buddha, the great axial age, the age of the great religions, when human beings are beginning to find their footing, when they are beginning to redefine the world as a theme park for Homo sapiens. Religion is a huge part of that, right? Because religion places a premium on human destiny and human life and decides that human life is what the world is really about. So Buddhism commits that cardinal sin. Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Hinduism, all religions commit that cardinal sin. They decide that human beings are to be the focus of human activity and human imagination. This is a far cry from what we see in the Upper Paleolithic, where people don't even paint themselves on the walls of their caves.
That's right.
Right? They don't even know what they are. It doesn't seem to matter. It's not the point. Because they're not the point of existence. So if you look at this curve, right, it goes like this, and then it reaches the axial age and it begins to bump a little bit up into the, lower tens of millions. And then you get to the industrial age, and then you get to the 20th and the 21st century, and it goes straight up. If you look at carbon emissions, it's the same curve. If you look at most of the graphs, like if you decide that you want to, really become literate about climate change and about species extinction, you can go to any website, climate.org, species.org, you can, Extinction Rebellion, and you're going to see this same curve repeated over and over and over and over again. So it looks like, because we've been trained to believe, that this kind of curve represents progress. Like, imagine if you had put all your money on this little naked ape of a species. Like, I don't know, if you really, really knew what you were doing 120,000 years ago or so, you go, I'm going to put all my money on this rather than on armadillo, right? And what would have happened? You would have made a killing, a fortune, right? If you look at it this way, what happens if you take that curve and you lay it flat so that it's not a growth curve, it's a road? Now what does it look like? So you've got this, now this is just 12,000 years that this curve, right, is tracing the history of Homo sapiens sapiens, but it goes back a lot further than that. So really you have a curve that starts at this wall and goes all the way across the room flat, like in under a million, well under a million Homo sapiens on the planet, living in sustainable relationship with the plants and animals of its biosphere. That line hugs the bottom of the graph all the way to the other end of that wall, and when it gets a centimeter or less from the wall, suddenly it goes up like this. If you lie it down and it's a road, then you're going like this, and you're headed from the remote past to the remote future as a species living in harmony with its environment. And then it gets to a certain point, and it makes a hard left turn. Where can it be going but over a cliff?
Hard right turn.
Hard right turn, hard left turn. You say potato, I say potato. But the message is clear, that if we change our way of thinking and our frame of reference, we see that we have come to this place here today on Saltkill Road. The Saltkill Road, as we know it, is only a few miles long. But if you think of that road metaphorically, it's 1,000,000 years long. It goes back a long, long time. Everybody here has cells in their bodies that have replicated and replicated and replicated through deep time to bring us to this moment. So when Shakyamuni Buddha touches the earth and says, I call the earth as my witness, that finger is an equal sign. He's touching the earth, connecting with the earth, saying, I and the earth are one. This is a far cry from the prince who grew up in a palace, whose life was so pampered and so insulated from the realities of living that he didn't even know there were old people, sick people, or dead people, right? That's the story. His father received a prophecy that his son was going to become a great monk. And he says, my son become a monk? No, my son's going to have little princes. I'm going to carry on my patriarchal lineage. So he hired all these people to make sure that he didn't see anything bad. So I think in this one version of the story, I think it's the Brahma says, no, this will not do. We need a world-honored one. We need an enlightened being. And so he sends an old man, and then a sick man, and then a corpse. And these signs get through the Suddhodana's, his father's defenses. And Shakyamuni sees these. He's so undone by this that he leaves the palace on the night that his son is born, abandoning his wife and son. He's so flipped out by the most natural part of being a human being, old age, sickness, and death. He's so divorced from that reality. He has become, he's living in the theme park. He's living in the theme park for Homo sapiens. He's in charge of it. He's the person who makes the most money off of it. So he goes into the forest to the other extreme to try to get away from this, to try to find the solution to all of this. And what does he find in the forest? He starves himself nearly to death. Finally, he said nothing works. He tries all of these spiritual technologies, meditative technologies, yogic methods. Nothing works. So finally, he decides that he's just going to sit down underneath this Bodhi tree, this big, huge shade tree. And he's not going to get up until he's figured it out. So he sits there for days after days after days, doesn't eat. Finally, at one point, a young girl comes to him and she gives him some milk curd, something, like a protein drink, basically. 2,500-year-old, protein drink. She gives it to him. He drinks it. His strength is restored, and he makes his final bid for enlightenment. What does his enlightenment consist of? What is the nature of that enlightenment? It's here, right in this tiny little story. It's a recognition that he and the earth are one. It's not that he has conquered old age, sickness, or death. It's not that he's escaped from the wheel of causation, the wheel of birth and death. It's that he has realized this is not the problem. This is the solution. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Clark. That's extraordinary. Please join me in hymn 163, For the Earth Forever Turning, and stand if you are able. Thank you. Please join me in the extinguish the flame words in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together.